Thank you very much. I must say I'm honored to be here. I think this is a conversation that started out almost a month ago, and I found myself in Barcelona. That's what open innovation does. It starts from conversations, and thanks to Ilari, Victor, and Saori, I'm here to talk about what we do at the iHub and how we actually support the communities there from a bottom-up approach. There we go. So funding open innovation in cities, that's Nairobi City. And about 7 years ago, you'd not see this much of lighting in Nairobi City. The city is becoming more and more demanding. It's becoming the equivalent to New York in the US. We have a lot of people visiting. We need a lot of street lights. We need transport fixed. As the earlier speaker, Professor, said, each city has its problems. It has traffic, it has potholes, man. And we are looking towards the government to actually solve these kind of issues. Can the government solve everything, ladies and gentlemen? No, exactly. The government needs our help. And that's where bottom-up innovation is really powerful. And when we set up the iHub about 5 years ago, prior to that, in the tech ecosystem in Kenya, there was something bubbling. There was skills, talent, young people who were passionate to solve ideas out there. And I like to look at it, when we're talking about innovation from a bottom-up approach, I like to think of Nairobi as a blank slate. Nothing existed. But there were problems in infrastructure. I mean, traffic was there, but it wasn't. You're stuck in 2 hours of traffic and to reach your destination, which is only 2 kilometers away. But with the introduction of tech hubs like the iHub and other platforms and other people coming into play, people like you, policymakers, academia, investors, boom. This is what's happening right now in Africa. This is one of the methodologies I advocate for. Funding open innovation in cities is not about money, but it's about creating a community that can enable open innovation in cities to be catalyzed and to be accelerated. If we help create this kind of an ecosystem, and if you look very clearly at this map, if you look to my right, you'll see spaces like the iHub, AmLab, NILab, which are accelerators and incubators, which have just come up in the last 4 or 5 years. And then you'll also see holding companies which actually support the startups coming out of this ecosystem, seed funds that are supporting the ideas coming out of this ecosystem. And then we go down to platforms whereby earlier on we were actually having a discussion about there's so many ideas to solve, and you saw from the previous speakers, so many municipalities, so many ideas that can be actually used out there in these different cities to solve ideas. Where can we have an idea source for this? An idea source to capture the problems that you actually face. That's why platforms like this exist. VC for Africa, Bongo Hive, our labs. This is to capture specific problems facing your city. And countries like our labs, which is based in South Africa and doing some work in Zambia and Zimbabwe, actually crowdsource their problems on the platform called our labs. So similar problems being faced by people. So idea sourcing is extremely important. But remember, if you're bringing this from a top down, top says, yeah, perfecto, let's go, yeah? And then bottom up says, all right, let's do this together from a mixed approach. Now, remember we are creating what we call a startup ecosystem. these entrepreneurs, you saw, entrepreneurs can be anyone. Salesperson, designers, dropouts, anywhere. You are entrepreneurs in this room. Yeah? You need support. You need support in terms of financing, mentors. This is where your corporates, your private equity come in, your programs, and your events. So, in my opinion, if we want to fund open innovation in the city using the bottom-up approach, we need to step back. We need to see, what do we have? Yes, we have government policies in place. Yes, we have idea sources. But how can we help the younger generation, the wannabe entrepreneurs who want to actually solve problems in these cities? How can we create that startup ecosystem to actually help them accelerate and catalyze businesses, thereby creating jobs for them, but also solving the problems in their own context? Think about that. I want to narrow down a little more from Africa. I'm showing you what's happening in Africa, but narrowing down what's happening in East Africa for the last 4 years. And these are basically hubs and government initiatives and academia that have come together to set up various spaces for young entrepreneurs and innovators and problem solvers to work out of. So what I'm advocating from here is that in terms of partnerships is also another key way of funding open innovation. We need the monetary and the non-monetary. So initially what I said is that we need to create the startup ecosystem to actually help fund open innovation in the city. Next, too, very important, is that we need key partnerships, and we need industry, academia, and government working together to actually support the open innovation in these cities. And you can actually see the outcome of this is these 200 tech startups that have actually come out of Kenya. This was done in June. The number has increased. And each of these startups are actually focusing in areas of agriculture, health, transport, and utilities that actually go back to supporting what the government in these countries are doing. I don't know, this map is not very clear, but this is a map of the tech hubs that have existed. And as part of the partnerships, what I mean by partnerships is that in places in Africa, tech hubs have become an intermediary, a liaison point for the young entrepreneurs and government to talk to each other. So this is another model that can be used. It's not a copy-paste model. You need to evaluate your ecosystem in your country to see whether you actually need a tech hub. And if you don't need a physical presence, a presence whereby the tech community can come and invite open stakeholders from government, academia, civil society to come and share their problems and ideas, then make sure you're building that tech hub, but also make sure that you're also consulting with the relevant stakeholders who have done it before. And the example here, this map, it's 100 tech hubs in 25 countries in Africa. When the iHub was first set up in East Africa in 2010, it was the only tech hub then. Between 2010 and 2011, about 30 tech hubs mushroomed, and that led to a blow up, boom, bam, in all the other countries. So one thing that I want to emphasize is that you need to create what we call this nexus point for consultation. What I mean by a nexus point for consultation, this is a nexus point. This is a physical nexus point. When we get out of here, we create what we call a virtual nexus point, a point of connection whereby if you use the hashtag #CitiSense, we are continuing to have these conversations and discussions of how we can better improve our city. So it's very important to create that nexus point in your country, in your city, whereby if I have an idea on transport and an idea of how to actually make the flow of traffic intelligent using traffic lights, you can come to a place called the iHub, or you can go online and join a Twitter discussion or Facebook discussion and voice out your ideas there. But remember, to make this powerful enough, you need to close the loop. You need to have the relevant partners. You need to have government officials there who say, this is a nice idea. How can we take this and scale it? And what are the partnerships that we do need? Has any other country or any other city done this in Africa, in East Africa, West Africa? Why can't we take the European solution and copy-paste? Why can't we take what Japan is doing in terms of the grid and copy-paste? It's not as easy as that, ladies and gentlemen. We need to learn to understand our context and what key ingredients of open innovation to use in a specific context. And dialogue and conversation is extremely important. These tech hubs working together can create a lot for open innovation in various cities around Africa, Egypt, Ghana, Lagos, Joburg, Nairobi. They have key points that they can share on traffic, key points on how to actually manage infrastructure. The conversation has not yet started, but I hope this conversation starts here at CitiSense and see how we can learn together. So as part of encouraging the startup ecosystem and as part of going to the bigger objective of funding open innovation in cities, I advocate for understanding the startup ecosystem and using the 6 ingredients of the emergence of a digital ecosystem. If we pay attention to these 6 ingredients and we support entrepreneurs and young innovators in our city, there's definitely going to be some change. First and foremost, we have to understand is that entrepreneurs, if you see the youth in Kenya and you see how much energy they have just to solve problems, one developer at iHub creates about 5 applications in a week, and I'm like, whoa. And I'm like, why do you create all these applications in a week? Because they have the drive, they have the energy. So we need to thrive on the entrepreneurial energy and spirit. Second is that we need industry to come together. Policymakers, academia, do what you do best. Do the research. Policymakers, pass the necessary policy that's needed for the innovators to actually catalyze and disrupt their city, their country. We need your assistance on this. You need to listen to us. And that's why tech hubs are important to provide this forum to enable hear what we are going through and what you're going through. Empathize. Capital. Capital can be in many forms. Yes, the first part of capital is money. But human capital, extremely important. They're experts in various fields of transport, energy. We need you. We need to know where your assistant can come in when the entrepreneur is working on the whole transport sector, the whole energy sector. You heard from the speaker speaking about Santander. Those are experts right there. We need your help right there. Policy, I had mentioned that. Support in terms of trainings from various institutions, professional services, partnerships comes back into play. There are very many partners in this space and globally who we can actually partner on various projects. And finally, the connections. Connections, events like this, conferences, such as CitiSense and very many other